Hi, I'm Dr. Randy Christian for the Essential Faith Project. We've been talking about essentials, those aspects of life that God has built into us to need and to use to make us healthy and strong spiritually. The first of those is individual worship. In individual worship, we learned to focus on God's presence with us all the time, and then to do whatever we're doing, whether we're thinking, speaking, acting, and make it an act of worship to God. By doing that, we make sure that the rest of these essentials are not just mechanical or legalistic. That's very important, especially when we're interacting with other people. So this video's emphasis is on the essential that is relationships. Jesus did not create us to be lone rangers. The church, by definition, is the group of people called out of the world in response to the gospel. So Jesus has created us to be a group, to interact with each other relationally. Now let me make this clear. I'm not suggesting in what I'm about to say that we should not have relationships with people outside the body of Christ. In fact, I'll say the exact opposite. It is essential, I suppose, if we're going to do external service, which we discussed in the last video, that we do have those relationships. Jesus focused on people everyone else considered to be outsiders, immoral people, people who were thieves. He befriended them without lowering his standards. So absolutely we need to do that. But we need people in our lives whom we can rely on if we're going to be down, if we're having an off day, if we need guidance, and we all need those things. So this essential is relationships, but relationships with people who are at a similar level of maturity as we are, or more mature. This way, we're able to lean on each other, support each other as we go through the essentials, as we grow, as we serve the Lord. So let me ask you a question. If you belong to Jesus, do you know, could you list right now, write them down, 5 names of people whom you could call anytime and say, I'm having a really hard time. I need someone to pray with me. Or I'm really tempted in whatever way. I need someone to just talk me down from this, or to meet me at Starbucks and get me away from this situation. Do you have 5 people whom you could do that with? If you don't, then you need to improve in this area of relationships. But having those people isn't enough. The next question is, do you use them in those ways? Because every one of us needs prayer, and every one of us needs encouragement. Every one of us gets into situations where we're tempted, and we need someone to hold on to us, like someone falling off the edge of a cliff, being pulled back off by people who are strong and stable on solid ground. If we're not using those people for these reasons, they're not on the list. Now, I'm going to add one more thing. These aren't people we're using in a one-way relationship. These are people whom we are also praying for. We're also available to. We're also holding on to, pulling them back from sin. These are relationships that are 2 ways. Now, if you don't have those relationships, we need to look at why. One reason is there's something going on in myself that simply does not allow me to form deeper relationships or admit that I need people like that. The likelihood is, if that's happening, I have a therapeutic problem. And you may want to seek a Christian counselor and talk to them about that, or somebody who's a pastoral counselor, and just work through why that's happening so that you can break through that and have meaningful relationships with other Christians. Another reason is maybe you just haven't connected with people. Maybe you're new to the church or to your area and you don't know those people yet. If you're in a Christian community, in a congregation, and you don't have those relationships, there's a couple of ways that you can add people in. First is join a small group. Get into a group of people either serving or studying the Word or praying for each other, but make sure it's a group of people who are like you, generally in terms of spiritual maturity, and also a group that is not so service focused that you don't have the opportunity to interact with them. As you do this, allow yourself to get to know those people and them to get to know you. Don't rush it. It takes time to build these relationships and to build trust, both them trusting you and you trusting them. In my experience, it generally takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months of involvement in a group with someone before we really begin to feel comfortable enough to say, hey, you know what? I need to talk to you. I need someone to pray with me. So don't give up if after the first few weeks, those aren't happening. It takes time to build. Now, the second is similar, except it's a lot more focused. It's what I call shopping. I've practiced this myself as I've gone to new ministries where we didn't know anybody, and I very intentionally shopped for friends or for spiritual supports. I can remember in the early days of my first full-time ministry, after worship, going around and simply tapping people on the shoulder who are of similar age and saying, hey, my wife and I are having some people over. Would you like to come over for some hot dogs after worship? And some of those never even came to my house. Some of them came, and it's the last time we ever talked to them. But others began to form a relationship. It gave us the opportunity to begin. One of my best friends, literally in my entire life, is a guy who I tapped on the shoulder one day. And when I asked him, he looked me in the eye and he said, why? He was pretty suspicious. And I said, we're shopping for friends. We're new to the area and we're looking for people we can get to know. He became God's godfather to my children and me to his. So deep relationships can begin very intentionally with people you don't even know. But once again, don't be discouraged if you've asked people over and they don't come, or they come and you just don't click. It takes time to build relationships. So if this essential is going to be a part of our lives, we've got to be committed to it. And we've got to allow the Lord to work in them and us. If you've got any questions about the essential of relationships or any of the other essentials, or if there's a way that we can serve you, please contact us at the Essential Faith Project.